Okay, YouTube, I'm not here to fuck around. We got one goal, and that goal is to fucking rank everything I did in July. Okay? And we are gonna do that shit. We're gonna get it over with. We're gonna run right through it, okay? I've decided zero editing in this video. Because it is the 24th of August right now, and I am doing my July video. So my August video is coming very soon. That one I think will be much nicer. But one thing I have done now is actually written notes, so I actually have stuff to talk about instead of me just fucking rambling forever. That's why we're speedrunning this shit. We gotta see how fast I can run through this shit, because every other video before this has taken an eternity because I fucking yap like I am right now. So let's run it. No honorable mentions. Who cares? It's August. No one cares about July anymore. But here I am still yapping about it. Now, July was fucking awful for me. That is probably why the July video was taking so long. Well, it hasn't really taken very long. That implies that I was doing stuff to make... I just didn't want to do it. But, there's things I would like to talk about in the month of July. And I got to keep up my streak because I plan on doing this the whole year. Next year, will I do this? Who knows? But I'm going to keep doing this because I fucking made a plan and I'm sticking to that plan. Okay, number 13, Maxine. This movie, easily the worst out of the trilogy. Not even close. Its story, awful. Third act, horrible. I did like some of the visuals, some of the little nostalgic 80s fucking nods were fun, but outside of that, not really much. There really wasn't much going on. Giancarlo Esposito, I did actually like as the manager. I thought that was fun casting. It was fun to see him play a character that he normally doesn't play. But it's not like he made that big of an impact on the movie. The movie really just becomes so dull and uninteresting. It's a really bad end to a trilogy. Like, it just really doesn't work at all. Like, this movie is just not very good. It's just not very good. Okay, number 12. The Death of Slim Shady, the new Eminem album. This one I'm going to have lots of thoughts. Me and my friend Ethan, which eventually, by the way, I'm just going to say this right now, eventually this channel will probably be rebranded to something where it's just the two of us. Because I think we're going to do everything together at some point. But we made a video reacting to this, same day as we also released a Clara reaction as well. So you can go watch both of those. I recommend the Clara one a lot more, unless you want to see us kind of progressively lose our minds while watching the Eminem. Well, listen to the Eminem album. But I'll give you my thoughts on the Eminem album. I'll give a shortened version of my thoughts, especially after some time has passed. At best, the songs are mediocre. Literally at best. Like, for example, it's a song with Jelly Roll, I think. That song is like such a plain, fine song, but I do actually think on the album, it feels like when I first listened to it, was like, oh, this is like one of the good songs on this album. And returning to it, I'm like, no, it's kind of just that it's like just kind of there. Like, it's just it's okay song. Like no one's gonna compare this to any hit that Eminem has had in his career or any sort of thing like that where he collabs with like a singer and be like, oh, this one is just so good. It's like, it's fine. Like, I don't think Eminem is necessarily doing anything that exceptional rapping wise. Like, he's really not doing anything rapping wise, and that's what you could say about this whole album. He repeats bars constantly throughout this album, and I think that it is somehow supposed to be a part of the concept that he is repeating these bars, because they're the specific bars that he brings up when he is like arguing himself about like Caitlyn Jenner, and he's always rapping about Megan Thee Stallion's feet and Little People and Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves, he used to rap about a lot, and I do think that I don't think it works at all nowadays. Not specifically because I think it is offensive, but because it's not really like he's doing anything that offensive. Like, he's trying to, for sure, but it really comes across the same way as like an 8-year-old trying to be offensive. It's like, I guess like they are saying something that like you don't really want someone to say, but it's much more like this annoying childish it's much more like grow up instead of ooh, they're really like stirring up some drama. It's kind of like Eminem. You're like what, pushing 500 at this point? I'm just kidding. That would get the Eminem fans riled up. That would get the fucking Eminem fans coming at my ass. All the fucking middle-aged soccer moms coming after me. And where was I going with this? Fuck, I'm gonna have to do editing. Fuck, I was so close. I was on a fucking roll. We got 5.5 minutes into this shit. I got on a roll, and then I started talking too much. That's the problem. We're back to the notes. But yeah, I do not think that the concept for this album works at all, because the concept basically breaks down to, which I will say, all the comments on our Eminem video might disagree because they all think that I had a horrible takes or that I completely misunderstood the album. I predicted the fucking concept when we started the album because it's so obvious what the concept was going to be. But like, I literally described the concept before I even said that he was going to kill Slim Shady in a song. I thought it was going to be the final song on the album, which I actually do think would have worked better, because after he kills Slim Shady, the album becomes significantly more boring. But I did think the final song of the album was going to be him. It was going to be Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady rapping back and forth, like arguing about like all the downsides of Slim Shady, but also how Slim Shady like helped him with his crunch like that. I thought that was 100% going to be the final song that was going to end with him killing him. I thought that was an obvious kind of concept, is that it was going to be, oh, we're bringing back this old version of Eminem, we're bringing back Slim Shady, and he's going to try to do all this like, oh, aren't I so offensive? And then there's going to be an argument about it. However, I actually think this idea is executed much worse than I thought it was going to be. Because the way the album is kind of laid out is it's just Slim Shady trying to be offensive or trying to be... it's confusing because he's trying to have this like, oh, Slim Shady's just trying to be offensive and that's a bad thing, but also like this is just like a part of me, but it doesn't really ever deal with that besides like the one big song. There's like a few lines leading up to it, but there's like the one big song where they rap back and forth where he kind of actually goes into that. But I also think it's like so surface level, which is crazy because you're like dissecting yourself. How are you so surface level dissecting yourself? It makes no sense to me. It makes literally no sense. Like, it really felt like, it did really feel like a very thin character that he was trying to dissect. Like, there's so many interesting things you could go, like, so many interesting directions. He almost sort of goes in a direction, too, where he talks about how Slim Shady how Slim Shady was affecting his relationship with his children, but he doesn't really go into it that much. And it just kind of, like, I just think that there's so much more interesting storytelling that Eminem has done throughout his career. And I do not think there's any interesting storytelling on this album whatsoever. Well, it's also probably one of his biggest attempts at a full conceptual album where there's actually a story. But it really just breaks down to Slim Shady being this annoying child, kind of, where he's not really confronted at all. That's not really an aspect of the songs for most of the album. Like, there's no kind of pushback until all of a sudden it's like, oh, we really need to push back against it. But also, I'm more than happy to release all these songs as him, so I really actually don't care at all. And it's just, I'm just doing this concept for funsies. Like, it feels like there's no actual, like, strong backbone in this concept. Like, he did not really go for it as hard as he should have. In every way, he was not as offensive as he could have been if he really wanted to make that a big point. He should have gone harder on that, I think, if he really wanted that to be an important part of the album. But he also, at the same time, needed to go harder on the critique of that. I think that makes it significantly more interesting if he just like is really, because he's not as crazy on this album as he used to be, and he's also not as funny. That's part of the problem. Like, that's part of the thing that is a hard thing to fight against Slim Shady about, is that like he is this like Slim Shady persona he had is such a big part of how he became successful, because he was just so entertaining and he had so much personality. There's no personality. There's literally no personality. It has the same personality as literally like an 8-year-old. Like, it has the same amount of personality. Like, there's no personality going on. And I just think that I like the concept idea. And I think there's a world where it could work. And I think there's a world where this could be Eminem's best album in a while. But I don't think it is at all. I think it's bad. I think it's real bad. It's a really bad album. I'm very much not a fan. And I will say, JID's verse and whatever the song is called that he was on, that's a very good verse that also I think makes the album seem worse because it did make, it kind of was like a reminder while I was watching that I'm like, oh no, I'm not just hating this because it's Eminem. Because I just heard a rapper that is clearly showing that he can rap circles around Eminem. Like, they're on the same song. Eminem's part, if you listen to JID and then Eminem, I don't see why you want to listen to Eminem. There's clearly much better rappers. And I think it actually does a disservice to Eminem to put JID on the album because he just showed that Eminem has, at the bare minimum, lost a step. At the bare minimum, he is at least not on the same level. And no matter how much like Eminem fans want to think of this album as his resurgence, it's just not. And also, now that we're removed from it for a little bit, tell me one person who's fucking talked about the Eminem album in a month. Tell me one fucking person. Like, I have not heard a single person mention this album like a week after it came out. Charm by Clairo came out the same day. I've heard way more people talk about that album. And we're not going to act like fucking Clairo is bigger than Eminem. But I would say easily that album has had way more staying power. Like, no one is... Like, I haven't even heard Houdini in a while. Like, that song was popping before the album came out. I haven't even heard that in a while. And it just... Yeah. Very bad album. Not a big fan. Now let's get on to some more shit that I actually like. Well, actually, we're not on to that yet. Number 11, I Got a Job. This was hype. I got a new job. And that was very cool. But before I talk about that, let me get into number 10. I quit that job. This will go into the August video as well. And I don't know how in depth I'll go into my work situation, but there was just a job I got that was just something that I clearly was not going to do for very long. When I did it, I was like, oh yeah, no, I definitely can't do this for very long. Like, I just can't. I've worked tons of different jobs, but I was like, this one I just can't do. So I quit that job basically right after I got it. Secured a little bit of a bag, which was nice. But you know, not everything works out. And there'll be more about this in August. So I don't know how much to go into it. Fuck it, who cares? Number 9, Deadpool and Wolverine. I did not watch this in the greatest conditions. I have to put that disclaimer out beforehand. Was just the bad things that happened that day. And I thought this might be the way to cheer myself up. And it kind of worked. Except for I definitely was the most sad person in the theater. Well, like, because it was like anytime sad music would come on, I was like so devastated. And it wouldn't even, like, the movie is not sad. It's not like the movie is sad at all. But, like, just the second they play sad music, I would just be so sad. But there was these two old ladies sitting beside me who were having a blast. And I did love that anytime, like, Deadpool swore or anything like that, they were like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And it was awesome. And then there was also a bunch of, like, big time nerds sitting behind me. So that was nice too. So it was a great little seating arrangement. I thought the comedy was very well written. I thought the story was fucking non-existent and not good. However, do I care that the story was not good? Not really. I kind of went into this movie expecting there to be not much story, and there wasn't. I do think that stops it from being anywhere close to the first two, because I do think the thing that the first two Deadpool movies do that I think just elevates them to a different level is that they have much better emotion in their movies. Like, I think that there's much better storytelling. I also do think those movies are shot better. I think there's some very fun action. Anything outside of the action, I do think is shot badly. Like, not badly in a way that it's like, I can't even look at it. Badly in a way where it's just like the least inspired filmmaking I've ever seen. Like clearly they just needed coverage. Like, it just feels like they're just shooting for coverage anytime it's not action. The action feels a lot more planned out, and like there's actual intention behind things. Um, but yeah, the movie as a whole, I think, is like, it's pretty good, but I I I think it's better depending on what mood you're in. Where the other Deadpool movies, I think, work much more as like a whole movie. It's like, this movie only works if you're just looking for like a dumb movie that's gonna give you a good laugh. I don't think the other Deadpool movies work that way. I think they work a lot more as a full movie, where this one is much more of a, it's just like a fun, like, just a fun movie, just a fun time. Like, it's just a fun time, and nothing more than that. Like, this movie's not. I mean, there are some people who clearly love it, and it's clearly gonna stick with them, and that's probably just because they love all the cameos and shit like that, and because they love Wolverine, specifically Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But on its own, it's like, it's fine. And honestly, I think part of the problem too is that it's not that I don't like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, but, well, I guess, I don't know, it's the same that I feel with kind of all of the different characters, where it's like, oh, this actor was born to play this role. And I don't know, I like seeing a lot of different interpretations. So I'm never really that big a fan of bringing the same actor back that much. And I especially hope that Hugh Jackman does not stay that much longer as Wolverine, because I just would like to see different characters. Like, that's what I like about Batman. And I guess Spider-Man too. Like, Spider-Man's also had the three main actors within like 20 years have all played the same character. But yeah, I think it would just be cool to see another Wolverine, I think. And that's why it's not like, him coming back to be in this movie was not something where I was like, oh my god, this movie's gonna be incredible because he's coming back. Like, I just thought it was gonna be funny, but I would still rather just, like, I don't know, like, I'm okay with, like, I'm very happy with how the story ended, and just did not really feel too strongly about him coming back. And yeah, like, I just love how, like, yeah, with like Batman, there's so many different interpretations. I think that's so interesting, because I just want to see what new people will do. And that's what I honestly specifically like about, like, comics and superhero stories and stuff like that, is I like that, like, there's not really many other things like it where the same characters and stories are told in so many ways, like so many different ways. I just think it's very interesting. So that's why I also think it didn't hit as hard for me. Okay, next one. Let's fucking run it. The new Denzel Curry project, what is it? The Volume 1 of Mischievous Evils of the Down South or some shit. That's not right. That is not right, but that is my guess. It's something about Mischievous South. Mischievous King of the Mischievous South, Volume 2. It wasn't even, did I say Volume 1? It wasn't even Volume 1. Fuck. This album, very fun. Basically, the only two notes that I have is very fun project, a little too short. I think, I don't even necessarily have that much of a problem with it being a little too short, but that is an explanation of why it is lower. Because inherently, it being shorter, just there's less to grasp onto. And I don't think that, and the thing is, I just don't think that the songs on here are necessarily, like, they aren't songs that are, like, blowing my mind, or like if it's gonna be such a small collection of songs, it would need to be a lot more, they would all need to be a lot more impactful for me to really love this project. So I like the project, and I like it as it is, and I like all the songs on it, and I like what he was going for. It just feels like there was a lot more to do, and it just wasn't done. So I'm excited for the deluxe to come out, because I think he said there might even be like 5 new songs on that. So I think that, as a whole album, I'd probably like a lot more. Because I just think that I just didn't leave that much of an impact on me just because it is so short. Number 7, Long Legs. I'm so like it's crazy that I'm talking about Long Legs right now, because who the fuck is talking about Long Legs right now? This is the type of content you can only get on the Dayton Has Something to Say YouTube channel. I forgot the name. I don't make these videos very often. I'm very unreliable with making these videos, but that's because I'm doing so much music shit all the time. So, you should check out my music shit. Dayton King, wherever you get music. Because I am working on a lot of shit. I mean, I guess don't check it right now. Check it in probably like a month or two. I mean, you can check it right now too. That'd be great. Listen to my music now. But I've been working on things, which means that it's not like I'm releasing that shit right now. But it eventually is coming. And I'm very excited. Got a lot more interesting visual stuff that I'm working on, as well as another album and a bunch more songs that will come up before the end of the year. Not the album. The album will not come up before the end of this year. It was originally going to, but it's a little too special to me that I want it to have. I don't want to rush it out. Like I want to be so certain when everything comes out. Because honestly, I could probably release it this year pretty easily, but I want to do like a big rollout. I want to have there's a lot of other things on the side that I want to have a part of it. So I'm going to just make sure all those things are done and everything will just come out so smoothly, because I'm very excited about it, and I think it's very special. Now, back to Long Legs. Long Legs is a movie, right? It's a movie that lots of people saw, including me. And this movie, I liked. And I did think it was kind of genius sometimes. However, story-wise, this movie, not that big of a fan. Especially as the movie kept going. I think the answers to lots of questions were not great. I think that the questions were interesting. And I especially think how the movie sounds and visually was very, very good. It made me kind of paranoid after. Like, I had this kind of anxiety once I left the theater that I haven't really had before. Like, I went to the bathroom after the movie ended, and I could just tell that I was kind of checking my surroundings, just making sure that there was no one around me. And I think one of the big reasons is because in the movie, they would just have people in front of doorways or in front of, like, just front of lots of typical places where you'd get a jump scare and it just wouldn't happen. But they would let you sit there waiting for it to happen. And then something else would happen. And it would just be very anxiety-inducing. I was just very stressed out. The movie theater was also almost empty, and I was also sitting very close to the front. So there's a lot of people. So anyone who was in the theater was like behind me, and so it was just a much more anxiety-inducing experience, which I think did make it much better. However, the story, I'd be lying if I said it was good. I don't think it's good, and that mainly breaks down to the fact that I think the reveal basically just being that, because they basically set up Long Legs as like, this guy doing like satanic murders or some shit, or who's like making these families kill each other, and it's like this satanic shit. And then there's not really like a twist on that. It just kind of ends up being, it is the devil making all this happen. And that's it. Like that's the big reveal. The big reveal is that her mom is a part of it, but I just think that like the motive behind all of this shit, I think her motive is more interesting than Long Legs. But I think having what is the selling point of the movie almost entirely, which is Nicolas Cage as Long Legs, and having him be such a badly written character is crazy. Like, I was gonna say he's like not like I was gonna be a lot nicer about it, but honestly, I do think he's just a badly written character. His motive is just that the devil is making him do it, and you don't even know like how he got to that point. Why they don't answer anything, and also don't give you anything to even like make assumptions. Like, there's nothing to even get you thinking. It's literally just, creepy guy who works for Satan, and That's it. And that's the least interesting shit ever. I hate satanic demon stories. They are so fucking boring. I am never more bored in my life. I do not want to hear, like, if the entire reason it's scary is because you took, like, let me try and think of an example of this. I'm trying to think of another, like, fictional character who I could fucking use as Satan. Like, I don't know. Let's just fucking think of, like, let's take, like, Frankenstein or something. Let me take Frankenstein's monster. Ooh, big scary guy. What if Frankenstein's monster, like, it was just like, oh, Frankenstein's monster is behind all of this. This is actually a horrible comparison. Let me do fucking Dracula. Let's say the Dracula, another fictional character like fucking Satan. Let's say that all of a sudden it's revealed that Dracula is behind everything. And it's supposed to be scary because it's Dracula. Bitch, why am I scared? Why the fuck am I scared of something that's, like, there's no weight behind it at all? You saying that Satan's behind everything has no weight to it to me, because you either need to show why it should have weight to me or not. Because, like, I'm not just gonna, especially, I feel like nowadays especially, I don't think there's that many people who are like, oh, but what about all these scary Satanists? What about all the scary... Like, there is some people, but they're fucking dumbass. Like, it's not like the general population is like... Know what's really scary nowadays? Satanists. They've really run rampant, guys. They're a huge issue, and Satan's a very scary issue, guys. And so you can't just, like... I just don't like that the movie basically just relies on, like, context that you have outside of the movie, where it's like, oh, isn't it so scary that Satan's behind all this because it's Satan? Isn't that terrifying because it's Satan? No. There's nothing scary about Satan at all, and I will stand by this. A movie could make Satan and demons scary. It could make them scary. But them just being a part of the story for the, like, just namesake does not make them scary. And I'll stand by that. There needs to be something, like, there was nothing about Longlegs that made him scary because it felt so unbelievable. There was no reasoning or even questions as to what his backstory is, what, any reason behind anything he did. And there's the twist that the mom is a part of, but she still was, like, working for him. So I think having any sort of idea of, like, who Longlegs is and Longlegs' actual motives, instead of just doing whatever Satan wants him to do, it just feels so silly. Maybe I'm missing something from the movie. If someone would like to correct me and tell me why Satan works as a villain in this movie, I would love to listen. I'm more than happy to listen. But I just do not see how that is, like, a reality. That this movie has, like, that Satan being in it is at all a good, like, motive behind things. It's just so lazy, and I think it really dumbs down this movie. Like, literally, I think almost any other explanation is significantly more interesting. I do not want, like, the fact that there's, like, this Satan is behind everything is so stupid, because, like, how am I supposed to get invested in that when Satan's not even a part of the story at all? Like, he really isn't. It's just like, oh, Satan told me to do it, but Satan's not a part of the story. I want to, like, get invested in the story. There's no way for me to get invested in that story. There's no way. It just feels so fake, and it also just feels like they just came up with the story as it went on. That's what it feels like to me. It's like, okay, we have this spooky Longlegs guy who really doesn't even have that long of legs. Like, I would have loved that to be an actual thing. I would have loved Longlegs to actually have long legs. That would have been fun. That would have been creepy. And I think would have added a lot. Just put Nicolas Cage on, like, at least a little bit of a stilt. Just a little bit. And just give him the slightly weirder proportions. It felt like in some shots they had that a little bit. But really, outside of that, not much at all. And I think do something with the long legs. Like, they just kind of... There's just a lot of things that are just happening. And as the movie kept going on, I realized that I was not really connecting with much of it emotionally at all. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity because I do think that so many of the other elements in the movie are so good that I just would have liked there to be an actual story to back up the rest of the movie. But that's enough long legs. I got all my shit out on the fucking, oh, it's the devil type shit. So I'm happy with that. I've been holding that in for a long time. Number 6, Receiver. This is the Netflix documentary series thing that followed a bunch of wide receivers in the NFL last year. If I have not watched this in a little bit, so I don't really remember exactly what it was in. It was Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. I think that's everyone. There might have been one of the. No, I don't think that. I think that was everyone. I like this a lot more than the quarterback documentary series, and that I think that part of the big reason was why is because, I mean, all the wide receivers kind of have more personality than all the quarterbacks did, and there was more of them. And I also love people like George Kittle is so fun. Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of insane in like a very like dedicated way, which I thought was fun. And they all just have a lot more personality to them. And the quarterbacks had 3 quarterbacks, which was Patrick Mahomes, which, I mean, that's a great choice. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the NFL right now. So, like, good choice. But then they also had Kirk Cousins, who I think Kirk Cousins is, like, kind of a fun personality, but also not really. Like, he's like a, I think if he was, like, the last guy in terms of, like, the hype, that'd be fun. But then they also had fucking Marcus Mariota playing for the Atlanta Falcons. Who cares? I was like, I do not care about what is going on with Marcus Mariota. Like, no one, like, I couldn't tell you what team he's on right now. What is it? Is he on Washington, I think, as a backup? Maybe I can tell you what team he's on. I think he's on Washington. But I just think the receiver one was much better. I had a great time watching it. I highly recommend anyone who, likes football to watch it. It was a good time. Now, speaking of football, we have at number 5 the Euros. That's right, baby. I was on my watching football arc because I've never really been a big football fan. I'm a big American football fan, but I'm not a very big rest of the world football fan. But I wanted to try to get into it because I never really tried, especially as an adult, to get into football. And honestly, it was a great time. I was rooting for the Netherlands because I like trains and I like bikes and I want to go to the Netherlands. And I thought that in terms of their kind of prestige and rank within everything, I was like, they're not the greatest team, but they're good enough that they have a chance to at least make it quite far. And if they did win everything, it'd be a fun team to root for to win everything. Well, there's still being kind of a chance. And they made it pretty far. What did they make it to? They made it to, is it called the semifinals? Or is it like, no, I think it would be called the semifinals. Yeah. It's tough because in like lots of leagues and shit like that, it'll be like the semifinals, then the conference finals, then the finals. So the last matchup being the semifinals the second last matchup being the second semifinals is throwing me off a little bit. But I think it was the semifinals that they made it to, where they lost to, who did they lose to? Was it France? Am I stupid? Am I tripping? Or did they lose to Spain? What happened? I don't remember. It's been so long. Because that happened like the beginning of July, didn't it? That happened a fucking minute ago. That happened at the end of June, I think, actually. And the beginning of July. So it's been a while since I watched it. And but yeah, it was a blast, and honestly made me a much bigger football fan. So I definitely am gonna try to get into it a little bit more. And yeah, so that was tons of fun. Now, number 4, Charm by Clairo. This album is a banger. Does she ever miss? The answer is no. That is what my notes say. My notes say, Clairo, banger. Does she ever miss? The answer is no. In all caps. And that's really all you need to know. I mean, I was a huge Sling fan. I wish Sling performed a little better, especially Amoeba. Amoeba's like one of the greatest songs ever made, to be honest. Amoeba's probably still my favorite. It might not be my favorite Claro song anymore, but it was for a long time. Easily my favorite Claro song. But now there's a lot of competition on this new album. I think some of the production's insane. Like I said earlier, me and my friend Ethan, we did a video reacting to this album. That video was tons of fun. We were drunk off of wine recording it. So that made it a lot more fun. And we listened to it after the Eminem album, which we both did not like. So it went crazy, and we had a blast. So I highly recommend watching that if you would like to know more about how I felt. And number 3, is it number 3? Yeah, number 3, X-Men 2. I watched X-Men 2. I don't know why. I just felt like it. I watched this movie so much as a kid. I've not watched it in a while. Well, until now. And, I mean, it's a classic. It's a banger. I think the movie is fantastic. It's so good. And I've always been a huge Nightcrawler fan. Maybe it stemmed from this movie. I don't exactly know, but basically as long as I have known of the character Nightcrawler, I just have known that I have really liked him. So I think it might have come from this movie, because I imagine this is... Yeah, I probably watched this before I watched any other X-Men stuff. This is probably the first time I ever saw Nightcrawler, so I think this movie definitely made me a fan of Nightcrawler, because I watched this movie an absurd amount as a kid. Like, I loved this movie. And, oh shit, I didn't even read my notes for that part, but I did actually say I watched it an absurd amount as a kid. Damn, I know myself so well. And yeah, great movie. I guess if you haven't watched it, watch it, but I mean... I'm sure if you wanted to watch, you probably have already watched it. But if you're looking for a good X-Men movie, it doesn't really get much better than that. Besides X-Men First Class, which goes so hard. Number 2, I got my cast off. You see that? No cast anymore. I guess this is probably the first video that I haven't had a cast on, right? I don't know. I don't remember. Because what were my last videos? Probably the reactions, I think. But yeah, I got my cast off. It's been off for a while now. Like, it's been off for over a month now. So, not the most up-to-date thing ever. But it really did suck to have the cast, which is also why July sucked a little bit too. Because basically the first half July, how it broke down was the first half July, I was still in my cast. And so, obviously, it was going to be much worse than it would be if I was not in the cast. Especially because it was summertime. And I was outside a lot because my sister had baseball tournaments, and I was at those like all day for days. And with the cast, just gets so hot and sweaty and itchy, and it feels like bugs are crawling and stuff like that. So that was not the nicest thing ever. But I will say, as much as like you would expect this to probably be number 1, right? Why is the number 2, you may ask? It just was kind of anticlimactic, because I got the cast off, and my wrist was just so stiff that it basically was like me having the cast on still. And also there was no like bugs or like crazy shit in there. And I kind of was hoping there would be, because I thought it would be funny and I would have wanted to take a photo. But there wasn't, so that was kind of boring. And I did have a crazy tan line though, like across my fingers. It was insane. That's all gone now. But that was fun. I liked that. And yeah, it just kind of, like, my wrist still hasn't, like, come back to 100% yet. And so it was a little more anticlimactic than I would have liked to, because, you know, you kind of want to come out of the cast and be like, oh, I'm back and I'm ready to fucking go. But it took a week, and then since then I've been, like, capable of doing anything. It's just my wrist gets gets sore a lot faster, because it's still getting used to working again. And yeah, so you would have liked it to be a little better, but it wasn't. But it still is fantastic to get it off, and I'm much happier that I have it off now. It is very nice to have access to both hands. It is great. And number 1, I have College Football 25, the video game. I was so fucking hyped for this, and this also came out the same day I got the cast off, and that might be one of the greatest days of my life. I am a huge football fan, and though I never had access to any like consoles while growing up, because all I had was a Wii, and so I never really got to play any of the college football games. And then by the time I had like an Xbox, they stopped releasing them. So I never have played one. And I've always wanted to because I also think I would love it. And so I've been very excited for this this game to come out. And honestly, it's been tons of fun. I was already certain it was going to be number one, even if it was just like a reskin of Madden and was just college football. But it is definitely better. The throwing makes a world of a difference. The new throwing makes it so much better. There's definitely problems with the game. I've been having some weird glitch issues with like the dynasty mode and shit like that. But I'd be lying if I said that I was not having tons of fun with it. Like, it's been a blast. And I'm very happy that it turned out how it did, because it could have turned out so much worse. And so that was my July. Rocky month for me. A really rough month, actually. This list doesn't fully show that because I've left certain things off of the list because I do not need to get that personal on the internet. I am not that much of a sellout, I would like to think. But it was rough. It was a rough month for sure. And August started off a little rough. There's been elements, but I will tell you, we'll get more into in the August video. August definitely better than July, and shit's getting turned the fuck around, okay? We're fucking back on track. Shit was going so well for me this year. I was having a great year until basically when I broke my wrist, and then from breaking my wrist until about like a week or two ago, shit was really awful. So for a few months, it got really bad. But shit, I think, is turning itself around. And I think we're ready to lock the fuck in for the fall time. I got tons of bangers coming out this fall. I think none of them are set to release yet and technically finished, but I'm planning on releasing all of them. So I have tons of songs coming out this fall. My idea, I'm just going to talk about it right now because it's fun to talk about, but my idea is to have it almost more as a prelude to my album, because my next album is in a little more of a different style than I have been doing for a while. It won't be shocking that this is what I'm doing. Like, it will still sound like my music, but I think it'll be good to release some songs. And I've just been working on so many songs, and I can't put them all on the album. And some of them just story-wise don't work on the album. So I was like, I want to release all of them as little singles to kind of ease people into this new direction I'm going in. And I'm excited to just start showing people, because I do think that I'm making easily the most interesting music in my life. And I think it's going to be tons of fun. And yeah, so hopefully you stick around for that. Thanks for being here for the 43 minutes that I've been recording, because I ain't editing shit. And I think I talked pretty well in this video too. I said a lot more than I was planning. My plan was to make this video under 20 minutes long. I did not do that. But thank you for being here. I did yap too much. I should have stopped myself from that. And I'm still doing it. Oh, okay. I will eventually get better at not yapping. I should just have a podcast, because I could do an hour-long podcast so easily. Like, I have so many things to say that I could so easily do it. But yeah, let me know what else you want me to do. And I'll be back in like 6 or 7 days for the August video, hopefully. Because I think that video I'll actually do a lot closer to beginning of September than this video was at the beginning of this month. And yeah, so thanks for being here. I love you guys, but not too much in a healthy way. I just love you guys in a healthy way, and that's a beautiful thing. Go tell someone else you love them, and go on a little walk. You deserve it. Go look at the trees or something like that. Okay, toodles.